What's up, everyone? Thank you for coming back to my review for Handmaid's Tale Season 3. This is for Episode 7, Under His Eye. Going to share my thoughts with you guys. Before I do, of course, tell me in the comments below, what did you think of this episode? What pissed you all off this time? Because I know there's something that pisses us all off about every episode. Just tell me your thoughts and any opinions you may have. And don't forget, consider clicking on that subscribe button and that bell in order to hear any more notifications from me for your future enjoyment. Now, in my review for episodes 1 through 3 of the season, I did state that there were specific characters that gave us certain viewpoints on parallel storylines that were going throughout the season. And that's kind of what's happening in this episode. 3 specific female characters that I mentioned before, which were June, Sarina, and Emily. And we're seeing their continuing paths and their viewpoints. And I mentioned these 3 because, of course, June, she's our main character. She's our main handmaid, and we're seeing her continuing journey. We have Sarina, which is the wife of Mr. Waterford, and we're seeing her journey and how she keeps teetering back and forth with keeping the baby, not keeping the baby. And you can see that she's having regrets, but then you see she's going to wanting to have the baby back in Gilead. So we're seeing her journey in that. Then we're seeing Emily in Canada, and we're seeing where her journey is taking her and how everything's backfiring now and how she's trying to like recuperate being in a world that she's not really familiar with. So you see these 3 females once again with these aligning storylines as I kind of theorized that it would be told. And I kind of like it how these episodes do that, so you kind of get a clear picture of each character. First, I'll talk about June. This episode is heavily concentrated on her trying to find her daughter at that school. And this episode begins and kind of ends the same way with the whole hanging sequence and how Aunt Lydia is getting all these handmaids to pull on that rope and to pretty much contribute to these people hanging. And it's just so hard to watch, not only because these people necks are breaking, but it's just the fact that these women, they're being treated once again like slaves. I think someone even commented in my last review that these handmaids are slaves, and they are. And the way that they were doing in the scene gave me that mental image that, yes, they're slaves because of what they're doing. And even though that this scene, those 2 sequences were filmed very beautifully with the background and the colors, as usual, the show always is, it was still very disturbing to watch, as always. And that was the starting point for June, and she continually goes on to try to find her daughter, and she gets help from one of the Marthas, and she tells her that she can try to get help, and in the meantime she gets, Mrs. Lawrence to go with her to walk over to the school. And of course that doesn't work out, but this brings me to my favorite scene in this whole episode where she's stuck outside the building and she's listening against the walls and she hears the children playing and she's making believe that she's playing with her daughter, and it was sad, but just so beautifully filmed. And it was just that combination of all these emotions that visually it was great to see, but emotionally it was just so hard to watch because that's as close as she can get to her daughter behind the wall. So obviously this plan doesn't work out, and Mr. Lawrence finds out about it, and you all know what happens at the end, how the woman O'Matthew, she got the other Martha in trouble and she got hanged for it, and June goes in that whole rage, and I would have done the same thing, to be honest, even if I would get in trouble. But it's just not looking too good for June, as always, and it's just so unfortunate. But that's the path she's taking. As for Sarina, we just see more of her possibly moving to Washington, D.C. along with Mr. Waterford, and how she's still trying to get back Nicole. And she's with Mrs. Winslow most of the time. And she's a character that I think that is bad news. I mean, granted, they're all bad. It seems that they're treating the handmaids a lot worse in Washington, D.C. itself. And I like the actress, by the way, that plays Mrs. Winslow. I can't remember her name, but if you've seen The Haunting of Hill House, another good show on Netflix, you should check that out. She's great in that. But she's showing her a home that she could be living in, what her future could be like. And later on, she does talk to Mr. Waterford and how he's telling her that there is a way to get Nicole back, and she is completely overjoyed. And it's something that I just cannot believe that it's still happening, even though she was willing to give away the baby. Now she wants it back again. And she just keeps going back and forth. But my favorite scene with her that's involved is the ball sequence when they're having that party. And even though all the women and all the men are dressed the same way, it was beautifully lit, and the way it was filmed was just really elegant, even though it's full of a room with so many despicable people with the way they're treating this new America. and it's just not right. It's just a beautifully made sequence, and I just liked how they set that up. As for Emily, I just want to mention that she is a character that's really changing in regards to her emotions. And we first see her when she's being questioned about all the acts that she did when she was in Gilead, all the murder attempts and her trying to attempt to murder Aunt Lydia. And that was the scene that really stuck with me, when she's being questioned about all that. And it almost looks like it's something that Gilead can use against her, and either to get Nicole back or to punish Emily or to do both. Who knows what they want to do, but it's not looking good for her. I mean, hopefully nothing bad happens to her, but on the good end of it, she's gaining a pretty good relationship with Moira. That was cool to see that, to see these two characters connect, and they both end up going to a protest that's having to do with the Canadian government. They're trying to convince them to negotiate with Gilead so they don't get Nicole, and they end up getting arrested. But it was kind of nice, just like I said, to see this character go in a different direction emotionally. We've seen her very timidly, and it's just because that she's been through all the things that she's gone through in Gilead, which is completely understandable. But it's nice to see this change in her, that she's becoming stronger, a stronger woman, and it gives a sort of self-empowerment to her. And it's going to be very interesting to see what direction she's going to end up taking. But another well-done episode, very entertaining, very well-rounded characters, and seeing the directions that they were going. And we're now at the middle of the season, so we have 6 episodes left. It's going by really fast, but tell me your thoughts, guys. What do you think about this episode specifically? And which of those 3 characters do you like the most? Which one do you hate the most? I'd like to hear those thoughts most of all, and your opinions. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like if you liked this review, and don't forget to subscribe to hear more reviews from me. Y'all have a great day. I'll see you later.